Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which means it is time once again for one of our weekly viewer specials. For those of you who are new to the channel or series, first of all, welcome, glad to have you here, and second of all, let me give you a brief rundown of what we do. Every week on Mondays, we showcase games from you all, the viewers. It doesn't have to be any kind of specific theme or deck. Really, if you've just got a cool build or a really awesome replay you want to show off, this is definitely the place to do it. So if you're interested in that, definitely head down to the description below. There's going to be an invite link down there for our Discord server, the Hexlex Plex. There, under the Master Duel section, there's a channel called Viewer Special Submissions, where you can drop your 9-digit player ID, and then I can see your publicly saved replays. If there's one game in particular you really want me to watch, make sure you're leaving your opponent's name, the date and time, or a screenshot, something where I know that that is the game you want me to see. But that's pretty much how it works. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's take a look at some of your replays. Okay, our first game comes to us from Ekudo. Ekudo has a pretty interesting pile deck that I'd like to see here. I believe we're going to be looking at this replay right here. So we are going to be on Maliss, but also with Scareclaw. Debatably Scareclaw with Maliss. We definitely have a lot more Scareclaw than Maliss cards in here. I really like Scareclaw as an archetype. I haven't played it in quite some time, but I think it's really, really fun. And yeah, they're all a bunch of level 3 monsters. That's a pretty easy way to get the Cherubini, which of course we can use to dump the Dormouse, and then revive or banish something like Splash Mage or Haggard Lizardos later. Of course, we also have the option here to put out the Scareclaw Triheart, which is a pretty solid boss monster, forcing your opponent's monsters into defense mode and being unaffected by those defense mode monsters. So, let's see, as far as our opponent, it looks like they are going to be on Synchron. Ooh, I'm very jealous of our opponent's Royal Assault Synchron, but yeah, let's check this out. I'm very, very eager to see some Scareclaw action here. And I think combining it with an archetype like Maliss is definitely a good move here. Both are very link-based decks. You know, your Scareclaw Triheart turning everything into defense mode obviously won't really matter for your Maliss Link monsters. So we do get to go first here. We're going to begin with Scareclaw Acro, and then we can special summon Psychic Wielder. Then we're going to turn the Scareclaw Acro into Lightheart. I really like playing decks with multiple archetypes in them for hands like this. You know, we open with our Scareclaw setup, and we can use that to sort of bait out the potential for our opponent to use any of their hand traps, right, if they have any. We're actually going to Synchro Summon for 7 here, getting the Ancient Fairy Dragon, and okay, I see. So then we can pop the... We actually have multiple field spells we can go into. We can pop the Scareclaw field spell to go into the Monodium one. That gets us Vysa's Starfrost. Or if we didn't have it in hand, another option would be to then cycle into Maliss and Underground. Sure enough, here is a Ghost Bell from the opponent. We're already baiting out those hand traps as mentioned. We're going to activate Scareclaw Rival, bringing back the Acro. Now we can link Vysa's plus the Acro in order to summon. Looks like it's going to be Cross Sheep, which is pointing to a Synchro monster here, and will soon point to a fusion as well. The Vicious Astrolaud can summon itself by banishing the materials from our graveyard. Now we can revive the Psychic Wielder. Cross Sheep can also special summon from hand, is that right? Or did something else special summon from hand? The Chessy Cat. Oh, yeah, it's the Ancient Fairy Dragon effect, of course. And, of course, we can make the Baron de Fleur with that Psychic Wheelier that we revived. Now we're going to activate the Chessy Cat, banishing March Hare, drawing a couple of cards, and then we get to, of course, add the March Hare back to hand. Now we're linking Cross Sheep plus Chessy Cat plus Vicious Astrolaud into the Scareclaw Triheart. Because it's 3 effect monsters, actually completely generic, which is kind of surprising for a boss monster, but we're going to set up some Scareclaw monsters on our field, as well as the Dormouse is going to banish the White Rabbit. Now White Rabbit gets a special summon, and then set a Maliss trap card from deck. That's going to end up being the GWC. Now we're going to link our 2 Scareclaw monsters plus the White Rabbit in order to summon out the White Binder. White Binder F gets to set another Maliss trap card. It's going to be MTP this time. And then we're going to link our White Binder plus the Dormouse. And that's how we're going to get to the Nightmare Griffin. Very, very good stuff. We're putting it directly under the Triheart, so it's pointing to the Baron de Fleur. And of course, the Triheart does not have any arrows that point up, so we're still blocking off our opponent from being able to use their monster effects on the field. Here's Link Karibo. And then we get to revive the Acro as well as add Rykart with the Tryhard effect. And wow, what an end board there. Not only do we have the Tryhard, again, turning everything to defense mode and making it unaffected by those effects, we have the Baron Omni-Negate, we have the Nightmare Griffin stopping our opponent from even using any monster effects on board, Lingaribo for trap cards, we got the White Binder and our Malice trap cards set up here as well, even some follow-up with the Scareclaw stuff here. Very good stuff, a definite improvement to your typical Malice end board, to say the very least. I'm really glad you showed me that combo line. It's really tempting to go into this deck, just because I love Scareclaw so much, and really efficient use of it right here. Thank you very much, Ekudo. But of course, we still have a couple more games to get into. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, next game comes to us from Lyra Arc, who's got another pretty interesting combo that I really want to see in action. I think we're looking for, yeah, this game right here. So for our deck, we're going to be on Elfnote with Yummy. As you've probably seen on the channel, I've uploaded quite a few videos of Snake Eye Yummy, so I'm really interested in these more offbeat Yummy variants. And already seeing some familiar faces like Illusion of Chaos. I assume we're grabbing that off Herald of the Arclight. I think I might already kind of see where we're going with this, but I not fully, so I really do want to see this in action. And for our opponent, it looks like they are going to be on, just a pretty typical Radiant Typhoon. I guess the 3 Harpy's Featherstorm really isn't that typical, but it's still not, like, super unexpected. So yeah, really eager to see how this one ends up playing out here. Okay, we are taking the first turn. And we've got Yummy stuff, plus the Illusion of Chaos as well. We're going to begin with the Lollipo Yummy. We get to link that off for the Yummy Snatchy. Now we're going to activate the Yummy Snatchy effect. Even though the Minion is in hand, it's always correct to activate anyway, because you could get your opponent to waste the Imperm. But we get to revive the Lollipo and then Synchro for 2. It's going to be for a Cupsy Yummy Way. Now Cupsy Yummy Way gets to activate. We're going to add Cupsy Yummy, of course, as well as the Marshmallow. And we're going to discard the Imperm here. Makes sense, we definitely want the Rhapsidia in hand to be able to set up with our Elfnote stuff, and Illusion of Chaos does offer some more extension with the Magician Souls as well. Alright, now we're making the Shamisen Samsara Sorrow Cat, and then we're going to tune that with the Marshmallow Yummy in order to make the Herald of the Arclight. Now we get to activate the Shamisen Samsara Sorrow Cat effect in order to revive, and then yeah, now we can synchro with the Herald of the Arclight, and that'll let us make the Seraphim Strelitzia. Now, if we didn't have Illusion of Chaos in hand, we would also get to search it there, by the way, with the Herald of the Arclight. So that's really cool. That's a really fun way to synchro for 7 and then get into our Elfnote cards. Looks like they do have a Crocea since we used the Yummy Surprise, which of course is a quick play spell. Definitely not ideal for them to be dropping that on our turn here, because now they get to search for not only Mystical Space Typhoon, but also a Radiant Typhoon card, which is going to be Meg Hala in this case. Alright, Magician Soul is going to dump Elfnote Lucina, because it can dump any level 6 or higher spellcaster. Oh, okay. I thought it was level 6 or higher dark spellcasters. I didn't realize it was any level 6 or higher spellcaster. That's pretty awesome. So now that we've dumped that into the graveyard, now we can use our Seraphim Strelitzia. That's cool. I really like that. We're going to make Lollipo Yummy Way as well, reviving the Yummy Snatchy and Cupsy Yummy, and then we're going to link those off into SP Little Knight. Little Knight gets to banish our opponent's Crocea, which is really nice. And then Strelitzia is going to revive Lucina. Lucina gets to add the Regina here, and then now we're going to activate Regina, sending away Lucina, then summon her to the center main zone. Regina is going to pull Elfnote Power Patron out of the deck, which can bump the Regina up to level 9 before we Synchro Summon for 10, and that's going to be for the Baron de Fleur. Now, Elfnote Power Patron and Regina both get to activate. Regina will get added back to our hand, while Elfnote Power Patron can put a different Elfnote monster from our deck to our hand. Probably Tinia, I imagine? Yep, here is Tinia. We're going to special summon Tinia to the center main zone, activate, placing the Welcome Home. Welcome Home is going to send Tinia to summon out Fortuna. Now Fortuna can place the Rhapsidia, and then Rhapsidia is going to send away the Fortuna and revive Elfnote Power Patron. Now we're going to tune that with the Seraphim Strelitzia, I imagine, in order to make the... Oh, it's going to be Borreload, not Crystal Wing. Okay. Borreload effect gets to activate. We can equip the Yummy Snatchy, and then we're going to set Yummy Surprise before ending our turn. Alright, during the opponent's draw phase, we're going to send away Welcome Home, summoning out Regina to the center zone, pulling out another Tinea from deck. Now Tinea can swap to the center, and we're going to end up banishing the Mystical Space Typhoon from our opponent's hand. They're going to start off with Super Poly, fusing away the Regina plus the Baron de Fleur in order to summon Mud Dragon. Looks like they got rid of a Vision in order to do that. A second Super Poly has hit the board, sending away a Mystical Space Typhoon and fusing Borload plus Tinea into Magistus Chorozo. I was going to say, those don't match attributes, but that's interesting. It's also interesting that our opponent chose summon Meghala after the fact. Surely their last card must be another quick play spell, but what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use the effect of our Lollipo in order to go into Yummy Snatchy and Lollipo from the graveyard. We can then use the Rhapsidia in order to revive Seraphim Strelitzia. Yummy Surprise will revive Marshmallow Yummy. Marshmallow gets to activate, adding back the Surprise. Interesting. Looks like they didn't really get anywhere with that. We're going to revive the Lucina, swap to the center, bounce the Meghala. We're going to special summon Eldum. We're going to activate Little Knight to tag itself out with the Eldum. They can still go for Swen and get a quick play spell, but I don't really think there's much they can do with that. Because, yeah, they don't have the ability to revive anything off of, like, Ascension. There's nothing to revive in the graveyard. Alright, so they do get their cards back, but it's definitely not going to be enough for them to come back here. Gonna draw a Tinea. We're going to tune our Yummy monsters in order to summon, I imagine, Lollipo, right? Yep. Now Lollipo can revive too. It's going to be Marshmallow and the Lollipo Yummy. We can add back the Mignon with the Surprise, and then we're going to activate that, buffing our Yummy monsters, and now we should have more than enough damage to finish our opponent off. And there we go. That was really cool. Yeah, I totally forgot that Magician Souls could be used for any Spellcaster monster going to the graveyard, not just a Dark one, which is a pretty fun way to set up the Elfnote side of the engine there. Good stuff. All right, thank you for that submission. We have time for one more, so let's finish off with that. And our final replay comes to us from Tuzio. Tuzio has, I think it's going to be this one here. Yeah, so they're going to be on 60 card Paleo. It's been quite some time since we've seen this on the channel, so definitely wanted to revisit it here. Looks like we're rocking some of the Dominus trap cards here, which of course makes sense. And our opponent looks like they're going to be on a dinosaur deck. So between Paleos and Dinos, this duel is definitely rumbling back onto the dawn of time. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah, Paleo is such a different game plan from so many other decks. I don't have a lot of experience either with or against it myself. I do have to be fully honest, it's not one of my favorite decks to play against. But it is definitely a really cool strategy. Our opponent picked level 4, which they definitely shouldn't have. If you're ever against Paleo and they activate Reasoning, you definitely want to call level 2. And our opponent should have known it was Paleo because we began with the Trap Tantalizing tune. Reasoning is a really interesting card to play against. Not just with, but against, too, because you can definitely use context clues to try to figure out, you know, what level you should call. I guess most Reasoning decks are going to be on 60 cards, but common levels I like to call are 2 if you know it's Paleo. If I think it's Infernoid, I'll call, I think it's 1. Yeah, 1. The Infernoid Tuner, I believe, is level 1. And if I know or think that it's Azamina, like the Azamina build that's mostly spell and trap cards, then I'll call level 8, because that hits like Diabelle's and the Diabelle Star Vengeance. You could debatably argue for calling for level 7 in that one to hit regular Diabelle Star, but I think I slightly prefer 8. Anyway. Looks like our opponent's setting up some Dino plays, popping our card and giving us a Jirac Egg token. They're going to use the Overraptor to grab the Misk. However, we're looking pretty solid, I think, right? We got Trap Trick and Rollback, giving us access to like any number of trap cards from either our graveyard or the opponent's. So if they do anything too scary, we should be able to stop that here. I actually was kind of yapping about Reasoning a bit. I missed if we resolved that Wabaku that's in there. Okay, no, we resolved Rise to full height. I see. Of course, Rise to full height is a really good way of protecting yourself, because so that the only thing your opponent can attack is one specific monster, means they're not able to attack us directly either. It's like our opponent's continuing their dino combo line. I see stuff like Scrap Raptor and the Secure Gardena. Here comes the Trap Trick, and then we can chain the Paleozoic Canadia from the graveyard. Of course, we get to revive, and then the Trap Trick is going to set up the Karma Cannon. Now they're going to Synchro Summon the Scrap Raptor plus the Rex. Going to end up making a Boarload Savage Dragon with that. They're activating Boarload's effect, but exactly, we can chain the Karma Cannon now, because the Boarload does not currently have any of its counters. It cannot use the Omni-Negate effect, so we can revive another Canadia, and then Karma Cannon's going to flip everything down and send the Link monsters away, and the token as well, because of course those cannot be flipped down. Alright, here is the Royal Double Evolution Pill from the opponent, summon out the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. It's actually kind of interesting because it does have that, like, piercing effect. And, or is it piercing? No, okay, it's inflicting 1,000 damage if it battles a defense mode monster. Of course, the ability to battle any and all defense mode monsters doesn't really matter here because of the Rise to full height. Exactly, that's the only attack they get to make, so... Going into our turn, we're going to find another transaction rollback off the top of our deck, but of course, a lot of our resources for this deck are going to lie in the graveyard. Trap Tantalizing Tune is going to put back the Rise to full height. Imperia gets us a draw when flip summon, which actually works out really well for us here. Now here is the Opabinia. Opabinia gets to detach and add a Paleozoic Trap. It's going to be Morella. We can activate Morella from hand. We're going to send a trap card for the deck to the graveyard, and then Canadia gets to revive here. Morella is going to mill the Rise to full height once again. And now we can use the Dino-Miscus effect. Our opponent's going to chain Logia's effect here in order to negate. So, no banish for us, but that is completely fine. We're going to link Opabinia and the Canadia in order to summon out the Cambro Roster? Cambro Roster. Yeah, I think that's right. Here is another Morella, sending yet another trap card from the graveyard, and we can even chain the Morella that's in our graveyard. So Morella 2 gets to revive, Morella 1 is going to dump Elemental Burst, and now we're going to link yet again. This time we're making another Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf gets to activate here, reviving the Cap Shell, and now we're going to overlay Canadia plus Cap Shell to summon the number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito. Royal as well. I have really wanted to pull a Royal one of these from the Legacy pack, because I use it all the time in Sprite. Shadow Mosquito is such a cool card. So we're going to set Rollback and Judgment and then pass. We're going to flip up the Boarload Savage Dragon, and then we're going to use Rise to full height. This will force our opponent to battle with the number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito, and no other monsters. Now obviously if they battle with the Shadow Mosquito, they're going to end up triggering its effect. So you would think, okay, the opponent simply just doesn't battle here, right? Well, the Shadow Mosquito's effect says all monsters your opponent controls must attack if able. So they have to attack, and the only thing they can attack is the Shadow Mosquito. Yeah, they can summon Tornado Dragon if they want, but it actually really only helps us here, putting the rollback in the graveyard. So again, not only is Shadow Mosquito the only monster they can battle, but they are forced to battle with it, meaning that our opponent is effectively OTKing themselves with our Shadow Mosquito. You love to see a stylish finish like that. Thank you so much, Juzio. Really appreciate that submission for showing some of the cooler things that Paleo can do. Thanks to everybody. There were a lot of really cool submissions for decks this week, and even if you didn't get featured, I do still really appreciate all submissions, because without any submissions, we could not do the viewer special series. So thank you all so very much. For now, though, that's going to go ahead and do it. Let's move on to our outro so we can also thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.